Please be seated. Good morning. My name is Jeff Harmon, and I'm a police officer with the City of Modesto. And today it is my somber honor to welcome you and to thank you for attending this service to remember the life and the sacrifice of Corporal Ronil Singh. Thank you for taking the time to honor a man who stood for so much of what is right in our world, and yet unfortunately was taken too soon from us by what is wrong in our world. The contrast between right and wrong is a framework that I'd like to use for just a moment to offer some hope and some perspective on how we can move forward from such an impactful, painful loss, such as the loss of Ronil. See, what's wrong with the world is that far too often, those who we love are taken from us by the selfish acts of others. But what's right in the world is that there are those like Corporal Singh who have made personal commitments to not let the darkness with which some operate extinguish the light that they have to offer. What's wrong with the world is that too often those who have stepped up to serve and given so much to their fellow man are taken advantage of by those who refuse to pull even their own weight. But what's right in the world is that there are people like Ronil who truly understand what it means to be a productive member of society and are willing to work in double time to make up for those who never will. What's wrong with the world is that frequently, even the very institutions and bodies that we entrust with providing an environment in which the American dream, where those who choose to get on board and work toward creating a land where ultimate freedom and order peacefully coexist, can truly become a reality. Oftentimes, what is created instead is a culture where what we say we value most is not rewarded, but at times, in fact, is punished or looked down upon. But what's right in the world is that there are those like Ronil who, in spite of all of that, choose to work hard, even in the face of opposition, because they believe in that dream so strongly, and they won't let anything stop them from working toward what they believe is right. What's wrong with the world is that police officers, sheriff's deputies, and other law enforcement officers are regularly viewed under a microscope, questioned on every single one of a million decisions they will make in their career, and sometimes even made to be the enemy, at times by the very people that they are sworn to protect. But what's right in the world is that there are officers like Ronil, who probably more than anything else wanted to be home on Christmas night with his wife and his young son, but instead made a selfless choice to serve all of his community, knowing that there were many more than just his own family who needed his protection that night. Corporal Ronil Singh is a shining example of what is right in our world. And to my brothers and sisters in the law enforcement family here and beyond, so are you. I know that we've suffered a loss that leaves a hole in us, but I know that each and every one of you are more bound and determined, committed more than ever to go back to work tomorrow and to continue to shine the light of what is right in this world. To Anamika and Arnav and the rest of Ron's family, our deepest condolences and gratitude are with you. Thank you for allowing Ron to shine his light in our community, and we are with you for the long haul. And so now, if each of you would bow your heads in a moment of silence in honor of Corporal Ronil Singh. Thank you. We have several speakers who've come this morning to offer some remembrances and words in honor of Ronil, and the first of which is the Chief of the Newman Police Department, Chief Randy Richardson.
Good morning. Thank you all for being here. The overwhelming support throughout this past week has been amazing. To look out amongst all of you and see you here in support of us is truly amazing. I've been to many of these and I always sit in the back, and I never wanted to be here. I know Ron is up there looking down, not wanting us to cry or me to cry, but he never listened to me, so that's just what it's going to be. Yeah. I met Ron a little over 7 years ago for my very first chief's interview that I'd ever did. He came in with his heavy accent, sat down across from me from the desk, and we talked about why he wanted to be a police officer and why Newman. And he gave me all the right answers, but he went above and beyond. He told me he came to this country with one purpose, and that purpose was to become a police officer. He worked with other agencies throughout this county, trying to work his way up to becoming a police officer. And he sat and told me about all the pride he had in America and how much it meant to him to be here and to be getting this opportunity. And he told me that he always wore an American flag every time he went to an interview. And he wanted everyone to know that he was proud to be an American. And I looked at him and I kind of smiled a little bit, and I said, then why are you wearing the American flag backwards? And he got kind of a blank look on his face, and he said, I'm not. And I said, you are. And he said, but I put it on the mirror and it looks right. And I said, exactly. And he said he's done so many interviews and nobody's ever mentioned it to him. And it was at that moment I knew, okay, this kid's gonna fit in. He'll be all right. So I just want to tell some stories a little bit about Ron. He was a great man. And the funny thing is, a lot of these stories I don't get to hear until this past week. With a lot of the family and my department sharing them with me. I think they were scared to share them with me before. Some I won't tell. But I talked to Mika, and this one actually touched my heart a little bit. We changed uniforms, and I don't know if you guys have saw us, like yesterday. We changed to a different uniform from an original blue uniform. So Ron had quite a few uniforms, like the ones we're wearing today with patches on them. And he was pulling them out of his closet, and Mika asked him what he was doing with them. And he said, well, I'm going to donate them to the homeless people in Newman so they can walk around. And it was at that point, I think he told Mika, well, I better take the patches off him so Chief doesn't get mad having a bunch of new officers. I heard from people yesterday coming up and giving their condolences to our department. People that he had arrested coming up and said, yeah, even though he arrested me several times, we're going to miss him. We loved him. So Ron had a knack for smiling, making everybody happy. No matter what the circumstances were, he always found a way to make us smile. You could just walk by him and he just had that grin on his face. You can look at the pictures here. That was his face all the time. Ron wasn't a very good driver. He wrecked, I believe, 3 of our patrol cars. The only cop in history that I know that wrecked into an occupied 10851 on accident and took him into custody, and then had an occupied 10851 stolen vehicle wreck into him and got the subject in custody. He just had a knack for finding the evil. It just came to him. He found a way to arrest people and put a smile on their face while doing it. I heard stories of people that weren't happy with him being arrested, and that he would play some of his music while he transported them to jail to make them extra happy. It's been a difficult week for all of us at the department. It's been a difficult week for the family. And never did I think we'd be standing here saying goodbye to such a great man. I don't know where we'll go from here. I know we'll move on. I know we'll find our way. But right now, it's difficult. To the family, I want you to know I'm sorry. And that I will always be here if you ever need anything. You guys are my family too. To my department, thank you. Thank you for standing by me, supporting me. I love every one of you. Ron, I know because it's going to rain this afternoon that you're up there watching over us and you want us all to be wet because you love the water. I'm really going to miss the smell of fish coming in early in the morning. Had I known Christmas morning when I sent him home that it would be the last time that I saw him, I would have hugged him. I'm not a hugger. It would have been weird for him, I know. But I would have, and I would have held on. Ron, thank you. Thank you for being the man that we all want to be. Thank you for being the provider that we all strive to be. Thank you for being the police officer, the canine officer, the corporal that everybody should strive to be. We will say goodbye today, but you will always be in our hearts. And we'll take it from here. I love you.
Thank you, Chief. Our next 2 speakers this morning will be Ron's brother, Ronil Singh, and family friend, Rob Hove.
All right. Thank you for all coming out here. I am Ron's brother, Ronil Singh. Some people call me Ronil, Reggie. Before I talk about Ron, I'd like to thank some people that work day and night to bring justice to my brother. Newman PD, Turlock PD, Merced PD, Merced PD, the Sheriff Department, Gustine, Oakdale PD, Sirius PD, U.S. Marshals, FBI, Department of Homeland Security, ATF, Kern County, Fresno CHP, Chowchilla PD, Livermore PD, Secret Service, California Department of Justice, Bakersfield PD, CDCR, Patterson PD, Riverbank PD, Waterford PD, Houston PD, Stanislaus County Probation, Sting Team, ICE, TSA, and a couple of individuals, Detective Fisher, Detective Brown, Detective Veronica, Lieutenant Cook, Detective Hickman, and Dan Coster. Dan Coster, you know why I'm thanking you. I'd like to thank you from my heart. Knowing my brother, I know this is what he wanted. He wanted justice, and justice will be served. Thank you for working day and night, bringing justice to my brother. I know he's looking down here. This is what he wanted, thanking the team. And not forgetting Doug, Ra, and Sanjay, being close to my family, doing everything. All right, a little about Ron. So Newman Corporal Ronil Singh, Fijian Task Force warrior, was born 1985, April 6th. Ron and I, in Fiji Islands, we grew up in Naitata Navua. We didn't have video games, we didn't have iPads, PS4, Call of Duty, we didn't have that. What we did for fun was what Ronil liked to do. He used to love climbing trees, fishing, and for hobbies, we used to play with coconuts. When we first got our television, he started watching cops. And he used to watch cops, watch videos, and he always wanted to become a law enforcement in America. We migrated to USA legally 2003, July 12th. That's when we migrated, thanks to my grandmother, to doing all the paperwork, sponsorship, everything. And we migrated 2003, July 12th. People used to ask us, why America? Fiji is beautiful. Opportunity. For Ron's case, he wanted to be a law enforcement police officer in America. Why? USA has the best police officers. He wanted to do it in California, in America. To shift gears, Ronil was happy to be in America, but in 2005, he was also very, very happy. That's when he met Mika. Ron and I, we loved each other, but we didn't really share too much information. But he came to my room, showed me Mika's pictures, like, hey, what do you think? And I said, oh, she's pretty. She's like, well, we are talking. I'm like, okay. 2010, Mika and Ron, they got married. And Ron was very, very, very happy. Some of the stories I'd like to share about Ron was, after school in Fiji Islands, we used to go swimming. So we'll paddle the boat, my friends, Ron and I. I wasn't a good swimmer. I'm still not a good swimmer. I was looking at a fish, and I fell off the boat. Ron was a good swimmer. So he tried to pull me out from the water, from my hair. And he pulled me, and it slipped. So he pulled me from my neck into the boat, and he slapped me. He said, you can't be using that hair gel, it's too slippery. So a couple of years ago, my granddad passed away. So adding to Randy's story about the uniforms, we had clothes. Ron went to Mexico on vacation. He drove. So he decided to take some clothes and help the community out in Mexico, in Rosarito. So he handed them out. And next morning, Ron wakes up walks on the strip, and about 20 people are wearing my granddad's clothes, including women. Something else I'd like to share about Ron was 2 years ago we decided to go fishing, and we needed a designated driver. Ron wasn't much of a drinker. We decided to take him. He said, "All right, I'll drive. All you gotta do is buy me food and preferred fish." So we cooked salmon for him, and we went out fishing. On our way back, he ate too much and he slept. So we had no designated driver. So we had to wait 2 hours for him to wake up so we could drive back. And I'd like to introduce Ra, one of Ron's close friend. Ra's going to talk about Ron's career highlights.
Good morning. Ron and I attend the service over here several years ago together. In fact, we sat in that column of that row right there. I met Ronil in 2008 in the parking lot of the Turlock Police Department when Ronil was a code enforcement officer, and I was there following up on a case. While Ronil and I talk about police work, it was clear to me Ronil was committed to becoming a police officer. From police work, the topic of our conversation shifted to fishing. We shared a constant connection and became friends. I learned Ronil and his family arriving in America in 2003, and Ronil had a plan for his career path. 2 years later, he became a police volunteer for the Modesto Police Department and earned a Level 3 Reserve Certificate from Ray Simon Regional Training Center. In 2006, he became an animal control officer for Turlock Police Department. 8 months later, Ronil transitioned to code enforcement officer. While working as a code enforcement officer, Ronil enrolled in an extended police academy at Yuba City College, where he commuted about 2.5 hours each way. Ronil also enrolled at the Modesto Junior College, where he earned an AS degree in administration of justice in 2009. Clearly, Ronil intended to achieve his goal of becoming a police officer. Ronil graduated from the Yuba City College Police Academy in 2011 and became a custodial deputy for Merced County. In July 2011, Ronil achieved his goal and joined the Newman Police Department as a police officer. I still remember the phone call he made to me soon after his conditional job offer. Ronil was very excited and shared his career timeline with me. He told me within 7 years he wanted to achieve the rank of sergeant. In 2013, Ronil was appointed to a K-9 officer positions. In 2016, Ronil was promoted to corporal. Ronil was delighted with his achievement and deeply felt Newman Police Department and Newman City is where his heart and soul was. In paving his career path, Ronil enrolled at Union Institute and University, where he earned a BS degree in administration of justice in 2017. Ronil and I are both immigrants to a country we truly love, and we both view serving our country and communities through law enforcement as important to who we are. It is our way of giving back to a country that has embraced us and our families. If you did not know this, Ronil had the American flags and/or the blue line flags hanging above his garage 365 days a year. Ronil was very proud to become a police officer and deeply loyal to his department. That is the kind of person he was. Chief Richardson, I too am guilty of trying to recruit Ronil to work for the Modesto Police Department. I even offered to give him all of my mentoring incentives. Like always, Ronil insisted on staying with the Newman Police Department. In fact, he even talked about moving to Newman one day. I would like to thank the Newman Police Department for giving Ronil the opportunity to become a police officer and be part of the law enforcement community. I would also extend my appreciation to the Newman community for giving Ronil the opportunity to serve. On a personal note, Ronil was always smiling and had a great sense of humor. I had the opportunity to visit Cambodia with my family in 2012. After the trip, I shared with Ronil a story of me learning to ride a moped. The story must have given him an idea because one day he called and said, "Hey, Ra, I want to see you, I'm coming over." Ronil showed up at my house riding a moped. I could imagine why he would want to buy a moped, but there he was showing it off. The moped was still sitting there in his garage one early evening when I dropped by his house. Ronil asked if I wanted to go ride a moped with him at the nearby high school parking lot. I was very hesitant to ride a moped with Ronil as it was a one-seater. Secondly, we did not have proper gear. I was also afraid of getting pulled over. Ronil smiled and assured me the seat was big enough for two Asian guys. Ronil then grabbed his motorcycle helmet and asked me to grab my bicycle helmet from the trunk of my car. Ronil insisted on going. Before I knew it, I was on the back of that moped, holding on to Ronil, riding over the pedestrian bridge into the school parking lot. Then there was orange juice. Ronil knew I don't drink alcohol, and trust me, he tried to convince me many times in the past. After he returned from a recent trip to Fiji, he called me up and asked me to come over. I was eager to see him as I wanted to listen to his newest fishing adventure. Ronil had many great fishing stories. I got to Ronil's house and his garage door was open, like always, when he's home. Ronil was sitting with 2 cups of orange juice, each filled halfway. He told me he brought the orange juice from Fiji and asked me to try it. He handed the orange juice and told me to just down it. Again, I was hesitant, but at the same time, I did not want to disrespect his offer, believing he brought the orange juice all the way from Fiji for me to try. So together, we downed the orange juice, and instantly, I realized it was more than just orange juice. I looked at Ronil and asked him, "Man, what kind of orange trees do you guys grow there?" It turned out Ronil had mixed orange juice he bought from Kmart and mixed it with some moonshine he brought over from Fiji. To Reggie, Via, and Ronil Singh. Ronil loved you and respect you so much for being his parents and brother. You provided Ronil with a strong foundation and morals in which to build his life. To Anamika, you were the love of his life and the support from which he prospered. Because of your love, he was a better man, a police officer, and a better friend. To Arnau, nothing brought more joys to your dad's life than you. Being a parent is the greatest gift a person can receive. And that was evident in the way your dad spoke about and played with you. Although your time together was short, your dad taught you the greatest lesson of all. That lesson is to love. To Ronil parents-in-law, Umesh and Lalita Chan, thank you for your support and for giving Ronil the opportunity to be part of your family. When you give Ronil an opportunity to be your friend, he was a loyal friend. When you give Ronil the opportunity to protect and serve, he was willing to give the ultimate sacrifice. Ronil touched all of us here today, family, friends, neighbors, and all of the community. So I would like to close with a quote from Ralph Waldo Emerson. To find the best in others, to leave the world a bit better, whether by a healthy child, a garden patch, or a redeemed social conditions. To know even one life has breathed easier because you have lived. This is to have succeeded. Ronil succeeded in making the world a better and safer place for all of us. Newman Police Department Corporal Ronil Singh, you will be greatly missed. Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen. Our final speaker for this morning will be the Fijian Ambassador to the United States, His Excellency, Mr. Solomara.
No words can take away their pains. No object can fill the void in their hearts. No embrace can be more comforting. No scheme can replace their shattered dreams. No death can be more untimely. This is what Ronil Singh's passing must mean to those closest to him. Anamika Singh, his loving wife, Anav, his son, Veer Singh, his father, Rohini, his mother, Rajnil, his brother, Satya, his grandmother, and his parents-in-law. And we have come together as a community today to once more express to them that we share their deep sorrows and pray as they commit his human remains to rest today, that God will comfort them now and in the future. Distinguished guests, friends and relatives, ladies and gentlemen, I take the stand today to speak on behalf of all Fijians that have settled here in the USA and in Canada, where I'm also accredited, to add to the chorus of condolences in honor of an American hero that grew up in a small rural Fijian town that I'm very familiar with, for I too reside in the same locality. That small farming community, Navua, was once the rice-growing center of Fiji and is known for hardworking and committed individuals with a strong sense of community and dedication to national service. Former residents of this small multiracial community have included people that have served in the upper echelons of Fijian society and have gone on, like Ronil, to make their mark in the international community in countries where they have migrated and resettled in. I sincerely thank those who've already spoken for their beautiful words, befitting a life of service, well but short-lived. I also thank the organizers of this memorial service and Ronil's family for the opportunity to say a few words. And for this, I thank the State of California, the Attorney General, Assemblyman Adam Gray, county sheriffs, the police, the Singh family, the Fijian community, and friends of the late Corporal Ronil Singh. I also wish to acknowledge the pain that is evidently shared by Ronil's colleagues in the law enforcement community, particularly the Newman Police Department. Chief, I can only imagine the sense of loss you are currently experiencing and pray that you too will find comfort in the support that is shown in such big numbers by the community today. We are also here to thank you all, law enforcement officers and services, for your service and dedication. Sadly, that is what brought us here today. As a representative of a foreign government, I acknowledge and appreciate the support you show to our visiting foreign dignitaries when they visit your shores. The professionalism and dedication to service that you have shown to the visits of the Fijian Prime Minister and the other Fijian political leaders and dignitaries visiting California is exemplary. Putting your lives in the line of duty is no easy ask, and you have chosen this noble profession knowing the risk, so that we who benefit from your work can go to sleep and wake up every morning and go about our day oblivious to the work or the risk you put yourself through to keep society safe. And we feel strongly in this time of sorrow when one of your own actually pay the ultimate sacrifice. How grateful we are for the work that you do. Once again, thank you very much for your service. It is also more important to remember that the late Mr. Ronil Singh was first and foremost a father, a husband to a now grieving widow, a brother, and a son. And to them, we cannot measure nor compare our loss, deep and painful as they are. And as we join them in seeing to the completion of final rites of committing the human remains of Ron, I wish to share a prose from an unknown author titled, "How Did He Die?" And I quote, "Not how did he die, but how did he live? Not what did he gain, but what did he give? These are the units to measure the worth of a man as a man, regardless of birth. Not what was his church, nor what was his creed, but had he befriended those really in need? Was he ever ready with word of good cheer to bring back a smile, to banish a tear? Not what did the sketch in the newspaper say, but how many were sorry when he passed away, unquote. From the words of praise we've heard spoken this morning, and the hundreds of social media messages posted in this past week, it was quite obvious and evident that Ron was a friend to so many people and touched so many lives in so many different ways in the course of the 33 years he was physically with us. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is a gift we will remember and cherish for the life of a Fiji-born American hero. May his soul rest in peace.
Thank you to all of our speakers for your kind words and encouragement. At this point in time, I'd ask for you to direct your attention to the screens for a video presentation.
When I met Ron, he was my FTO, and before that I started out there as a community service officer. And my first day there, I met Ron in our break room, and first thing I thought was I'd never seen an Indian police officer before. And my lieutenant told me on my first day, he said, just go ahead and ride out with Ron for most of your shifts, since it's kind of like your orientation day. He'll take you around the city, and immediately he just wanted to get into stuff, go hunt and find people. And I noticed we didn't have a lot of calls for service, so he was more proactive, and he just started talking about the department. And so I told him my goal was eventually to be a police officer, and he told me right off the bat, he's like, go to a bigger agency and where it's busier and you have a lot more fun. But little did I know, a couple years later I'd be working right next to him.
I met Ron in 2011 when he got hired with the Newman Police Department. Ron introduced himself, very polite.
One of my favorite memories of Ron is when I had left my Facebook open on my computer, and I had walked away from it for a bit, and I started getting notifications on my phone, people laughing at my newest status update. And it turned out Ron had uploaded this crazy random looking monkey on my phone, or my Facebook. And he had commented on the post and asked a new date. That was just one of the many funny little things that Ron would do just to brighten up our day.
Pilot 3, can you log me off?
The first time I met Ron, he was my second field training officer. I was his first trainee. because he had just gone through FTO school.
I've met Ron several times throughout, several years.
Prior to working for Los Banos Police Department, I worked for the Gustine Police Department, which is a neighboring city to Newman. A lot of times the Newman officers work by themselves, so if they have a higher priority call or a call that would normally have a 2-officer response, they would call for Gustine to act as a cover officer. So that's how I met Ron, is coming to Newman to back him up, or me calling for Newman and Ronil going to back me up on a call.
I met Ron approximately 7 years ago when I was already working here at the department. He started. After his FTO program, we were working patrol together during our swing and graveyard shift.
The first time I met him, it was at a K9 fundraiser. It was a crab fest. And towards the very end, he comes up to me, and I'd never seen him, I'd never met him. And he looks at me and he tells me, "Hey, when do you start with me as a FTO?" And I tell him in a couple days. And he looks at me and he tells me, "Okay, we're gonna have some fun." And that was really intimidating, but it was the funnest I've ever had on FTO.
So, Ron the jokester, some of my favorite things with Ron. One stands out, and this is how I really want to remember Ron. He's just always funny. Ron drives by my house. We live right by each other, and when he drives by my house, he'd always hit his air horn. One time, I can remember my wife being outside, and she knew that he was even coming. She saw the vehicle coming, and he hit the air horn and still scared her. She jumped up, and she, gets that little scream, and he'll text her, "Did I scare you?" and laugh about it, and he texts me the same thing. "Hey, I think I scared your wife." It's pretty funny. So, Ron was just that guy. He would make you laugh. He would do little things like that.
We were in the back lot, and he was like, "Well, we got low tire pressure, so go put air in it." And so I did, and I was putting the compressor back, and he hit the air horn on the car. And I turned around, and he had the phone in his hand, and he was laughing inside the car, and I knew he was just having a good time. And I got back in the car, and he was like, "Oh, look," and just, made me laugh the whole time. I saw myself jump 2 or 3 feet, and he was just having fun. He just had fun. That's what he loved to do, and make everybody happy.
He'd set up these scenarios where he'd stage actors, and he'd set up these situations where they'd come in, they'd tell me their problems, or we'd meet them out there, and they were the most awkward situations ever. I was a new officer, and they'd come in, they'd start telling me these bizarre stories, and I'm sitting there, and I'm trying to answer their questions to the best of my ability, and I'm going with the flow, but then the stories wouldn't match up, and I'd look at the person, and then I'd finally realize, and I'd look at him, and his face is red, and he'd just start laughing, and I'd look at him, and I'd be like, "Hey, when are you guys gonna tell me?" And he'd just start laughing.
My favorite story would be, those who knew him would be the jet ski story. And I'll just kind of leave it at that.
One of my favorite stories of Ron is one day he called me, and we were talking, and he wanted to go on vacation. So I asked him, "Well, where do you want to go?" And he said, "Well, we'll take a vacation to Fiji." And I asked him, "Okay, well, where would we stay in Fiji?" And he said that we can take tents and go around Fiji like we're homeless.
I know for the most part, sometimes they couldn't understand what he was saying, but he used to tell me that everybody thought his accent was sexy and exotic. And we would laugh all the time, because he would tell me that.
Ron he's a good guy, very likable, personable. If I can describe Ron in one word, it would be incredible. That's how Ron was.
Live life to the fullest. Because I know he did.
Within the last year and a half, I had 2 major injuries, which one of them allowed me to have limited use of my left arm and hand. And Ron was always there, always stopped by my house, willing to do whatever he needed to do to help me. One day when I was starting to get a little bit better and I still had limited use of my left arm and hand, he said, "Come over, I want to wax your truck for you." So I took my truck over there and he waxed my whole truck by hand, which I thought was really nice and kind of him to do. He always invited me over to do things just to make sure I wasn't alone and stuff like that, because he genuinely cared about people.
When they had their son born, I went to the hospital to see their son, and just seeing how excited he was, to be there, and you could just see in his eyes, he was very proud to be a father.
He was a good guy. He was always happy. He always made us laugh, no matter what the case was. He always maybe had a joke, or he just knew how to light up the room.
We'd be driving around and he'd look at me, he'd be like, "Hey, you had a tough day. It was fun and difficult." And then he'd look at me and he'd be like, "This is the reason we got into this profession." And I'd look at him and I would see an officer, he's a veteran, but at the same time, every day was like his first day. And he had all that energy, and I really looked up to him. Brother, I hope to one day see you again. I wish you were back here with us, and I'd give anything for you to mess with me and joke around with me again. I love you.
I saw was smoke and fire. I didn't feel a thing, but suddenly I was rising higher, and I felt like I just made the biggest mistake. When I thought about my unborn child, when I thought about my wife, and the answer rang out clear from somewhere up above. No greater gift has man than to lay down his life for love. And I wonder, would I give my life? Or could I make that sacrifice? If it came down to it, could I take the bullet? I would. Yes, I would. Understand it all myself, but there's a brother on my left and another on my right, and in his pocket just like mine, he's got a photograph, and you're waiting for him back home, and it's weighing on my mind. I'm not trying to be a hero, I don't want to die, but right now in this moment, you don't think twice. I wonder, would I my life, I would make that sacrifice. 'Cause if it came down to it, could I take the bullet? I would. Yes, I would. Do it for you.
Bad boys, what you want, what you want, what you gonna do when Sheriff John Brown come for you? Tell me what you wanna do, what you gonna do? Yeah. Bad boys, what you gonna do? What you gonna do when they come for you? Bad boys, what you gonna do? What you gonna do when they come for you? When you were 8 and you had bad traits, you go to school and learn the golden rule. So why are you acting like a bloody fool? If you get hot, then you must get cool. Bad boys, what you gonna do? Or what you gonna do when they come for you? Bad boys, what you gonna do? Or what you gonna do when they come for you? You chuck it on that one, you chuck it on this one.
Can you lay your life down so a stranger can live? Can you take what you need, but take less than you give? Could you close every day without the glory and fame? Could you hold your head high when no one knows your name? That's how legends are made. At least that's what they say. We say goodbye, but never let go. We live, we die, 'cause you can't save every soul. Gotta take every chance to show that you're the kind of man who will never look back, never look down, and never let go. Can you lose everything you ever had planned? Can you sit down again and play another hand? Could you risk everything for the chance of being alone? Under pressure, find the grace. Would you come undone? That's how legends are made. At least that's what they say. We say goodbye, but never let go. We live, we die, 'cause you can't save every soul. Gotta take every chance to show that you're the kind of man who will never look back, never look down, and never let go. Never let go. Gotta take every chance to show that you're the kind of man who will never look back, never look down, and never let go. We say goodbye, but never let go. We live, we die, but you can't save every soul. Gotta take every chance to
As no doubt you already know, Ronil was a bright light in the lives of everyone that he came into contact with. The pain and the wound that is left behind for having lost him is not one that will heal quickly or easily, but I'm sure that Ron would want each of us to keep our heads up and to continue to fight the good fight. Let us never forget the person that he was and the impact that he made and the legacy that he leaves. Corporal Singh, we honor you, and we will take it from here, brother. At this point, this will conclude this portion of our remembrances today. And on behalf of the Newman Police Department, the greater law enforcement family, and of course, Ron's family, I'd like to thank you for attending. We will now be dismissed in order to accommodate our procession to the Lakewood Cemetery for a short ceremony at the Law Enforcement Memorial. And I'd ask that all of you, including those of you seated in the venues across the street and the various satellite locations around the campus, to remain where you are until you're given instructions for dismissal.